Welcome to episode 29 of Pera's Playbook. Today I'm joined by Nicholls State QB Pat McQuaide. How you doing, Pat?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for hopping on. It was pretty quick. You answered me, and here we are. So that's the way to do it. Make it easy. Just get the episode scheduled and get it underway. Especially before you guys got a pretty big game tomorrow against Tulane, which we can talk about a little bit later. We might as well kind of work our way to how you got to Nicholls State. Coming out of high school, you went to Kent State, registered your first year. So I guess maybe just start by talking about your recruitment for a little bit, and then choosing Kent State originally.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
awesome.
So originally I'm from Solon, Ohio, which is outside of Cleveland, about 20 minutes east of downtown. So I lived there my whole life. I grew up and I played high school football for my dad. So my dad's the legendary high school football coach back in Ohio, and I got a great opportunity to play for 4 years, play for a great staff, and I really got lucky playing in a great program, ton of tradition. But yeah, my senior year was 2021. We only got to play 2 games, and then the way that Ohio did it was everybody was allowed to play 6 regular season games. Well, due to some other things that were outside of our control, we only got to play 2, and then everybody went to the playoffs. So we played 2 games. We went to the playoffs and had to play a Catholic school that is historically one of the most successful programs, one of the most successful Catholics programs in the state. And they were on their 5th game. We were on our 3rd. So it's just a rough matchup. Ended up losing. And then fortunately, we got to play a couple more games, just kind of consolation. As a senior, it was big just to not only get to play 3 games my senior year. So yeah, I got to do a little bit of that. And then I also played baseball and basketball too. So that was all 3 of them were big. But I always knew I wanted to play football though. Once I got to high school, just playing varsity football, I mean, there's nothing like it. So, but yeah, I didn't after the season. My senior year, we struggled. My class we didn't have a lot of guys just because of COVID. Guys kind of stopped playing, and so I had to do a lot. Played quarterback, played safety, was on every special team. So I wasn't really ever coming off the field. And for people that have played multiple positions in a sport, it's hard to do one thing at a high level when you have to do a lot of different things. So ultimately, just did not play as well as I played as a junior at quarterback, and that kind of hurt me in recruiting, just in terms of having solid film and honestly having a high quantity of film, just because of the number of games. But yeah, so I got in with the guys at Kent, and they gave me a great opportunity to walk on, be a part of their program, and I always, as a kid, growing up, I wanted to play Division I college football. That was always my dream. So, got the opportunity to go to Kent and ran with it. Showed up there in June of 2021, and it was great. I mean, I loved my year at Kent. It was incredible. It was great people there, people I still talk to all the time. But yeah, I just got a great opportunity. They gave me a chance, and I'm still very appreciative of those people for letting me do that.
Did you enjoy playing for your dad in high school? Like a lot of
Yeah,
kids,
I did.
some kids have mixed feelings about like playing for their parents as coaches.
Yeah, I did. My dad did a phenomenal job of treating me like a player, but also he was very hard on me just because I was his son. I mean, that's how it has to be. But I definitely think, at the beginning when I was a freshman, my best friend was the starter. He was a senior when I was a freshman, so he played and I played a little bit just because he played some defense too. So I didn't start as a freshman, but I got to rotate a little bit. And, people didn't like, freshman quarterback coach's son playing, so we dealt with some of that stuff. But I was fortunate to have a lot of really good players around me. So they made my job easy, made me look good. So I think we kind of got people to buy in that it was more than just, oh, his last name is the reason why he's playing. But yeah, for overall, I really liked it. I mean, it's the reason where I'm at today. It's the reason why I've had any success is being around him and being around the game. So
Yeah, it's tough to be the coach's kid and be good because people don't look at the fact that you're good. Like you said, they just kind of like same last name, that's why he's starting. But that's not always the
Right.
case. If you look around college football, there's plenty of kids. I mean, look at Colorado. I mean, the
Yeah, right.
Sanders brothers, they're not there just because their dad, they're there because they're that good. I mean, obviously their
Right.
dad being the coach, they want to play for him. But even if there was a different coach there, they could play at that level, So
No
just
doubt.
because you have the same last
Yeah.
name doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So after your year at Kent State, you kind of did what like the opposite. A lot of people start JUCO, then they go D1. You did your walk on year red shirt, and then you went JUCO. Was that just because you knew you'd get a better opportunity to play and like develop as a quarterback, or what was your thought process going into that?
Yeah. So I went in, or when I left Kent, it was just always going to be a tough battle for me at Kent. There are some really good players that were there and are still there. So it was just, I mean, it's a numbers game, So you get in at the bottom of a long list of guys. It's hard, There's not a ton of reps in college to go around. So when you only have 2 or 3 plays, I mean, you do the best of what you get, but ultimately it's difficult to move up and down that depth chart. So I entered the portal at Kent really with no idea what was going to happen. I knew that I wanted to play. I didn't care where it was, how far from home, what division. I just wanted to play. Not getting a chance to play was something that I struggled with a lot when I was at Kent. Just when you play all the time in 3 sports, you never come off the field or come off the court. And then you get to college and you don't even have a chance to get on the field. It's like, I mean, it's rough. So I entered the portal and was just like, I'm open to everything. I mean, I talked to a lot of Division II schools, a lot of Division III, just because, I mean, I didn't play in a game. So when you don't play in a game, it's hard to transfer laterally, It's
Yeah.
mostly you're transferring down. So fortunately, through a buddy of mine that played with at Kent and following each other on Twitter and him retweeting that I was in the portal, I got locked in with Coach Louvier over at Mississippi Gulf Coast. And I owe everything to Coach Louvier because him and Coach Wright, the head coach, they gave me an opportunity that I mean it is incredible. It's paid off for me a ton. So and I entered the transfer portal in May. Like a week later, he called me, talked on the phone a couple times, and then I went down on a visit to Gulf Coast. And their recruiting pitch was, you were at a D1, you fully believe you can play at a D1. You're not going to transfer to a D1 right now because you haven't played. So this is the next best option. So I had a bunch of Division II opportunities, which, me and my family are very grateful for. But the thought process was I could go to the Division II now, or I could go to the junior college, see what happens. And then those Division IIs will still be there after. So, yeah, I mean, it was kind of a leap of faith entering the transfer portal just because I had no idea what I was getting into. But ultimately, obviously, I think really worked out for me.
Yeah, I mean they worked out. They couldn't have worked out better. You had a great
Yeah.
season. You led the nation in passing yards per game, passing TDs. I mean, you put up great numbers, and obviously like just that year of getting to play some more helped you develop as a quarterback, like build on your skills and just improve. And then now you had more film. Like you talked about not having that film as a senior in high school because of COVID, and then obviously no film really at Kent State. So now you've got some film, you can like re-enter recruiting and go from there. When you went to Mississippi Gulf Coast, did you plan on only going for 1 year, or were you just kind of like, let's see how this goes and and we'll go from there?
Yeah, the plan was to go for a year. And that was really based on school more than anything else, just because the way that it works in junior college. You get a 2-year associate's degree from places like that. So I already had like 85% of my first 2 years of college done from Kent, just from like high school stuff and then being there in the summer. So honestly, if I would have come back to Gulf Coast, I would have ran out of classes to take. So it really kind of, we figured that out at the beginning. They looked at my transcripts on my visit and all that. So it was kind of all in on me coming in playing as well as I can, and then going back to a 4-year school once the season ended.
Yeah. And hey, it worked out. You said you took a leap of faith, but sometimes you got to do that in life. Sometimes you have to
Yeah,
take
no
that
doubt.
leap of faith. And the stuff that's tough, the tough stuff, it's rewarding in the end. And you got your dream here. Now you're playing at Nicholls State. You're back in the D1 and you're actually playing. So, coming out of Juco, was the recruitment, different than when you were in the transfer portal? Did you feel like you had a lot more attention with this extra film?
So it was kind of weird coming out of junior college just because of how the transfer portal works now. And so we played our last game on November 6th. So the transfer portal opens up like big in December and then again like in May when when semesters end. So for the first like I don't know, kind of 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so, I was just kind of sitting around, I had talked to the guys at Nichols a lot. I had talked to a couple other schools. But I kind of, you kind of have to wait for the transfer portal to open because people are going to be like, if I need to bring in a quarterback, it's either going to be a transfer or a junior college guy. So, and they all kind of want the bigger transfers, the Power Five transfers to drop down rather than the JUCO guys to go up. But I had kind of been in with Nichols since like week 5, week 6 of the season. They had come to watch me play when I was at Gulf Coast, and then when I was at home, they actually came to see me and my family. So the coaches flew to Cleveland. Our head coach, our offense coordinator, defense coordinator, and our receivers coach, they all flew to Cleveland. So it was kind of like, I mean, I knew that I was very high on Nichols. But I mean, ultimately, it's a huge decision. So, you don't want to kind of rule any options out. So I didn't go on a visit until into December just because they were still playing and just things going on. So I was still, talked to a couple other schools, but the way that it ended up working was every time I would think about another school, it would always be like, yeah, they have this, but it's not as good as Nichols. So once I kind of realized that I was comparing everything to Nichols, I mean, it was kind of a no brainer that, I mean, that's where you want to be. So
In your recruitment, did they tell you like, hey, you're gonna play for sure, or hey, we can't guarantee you playing time, you're just gonna have to come in and earn your spot? How did that conversation go?
yeah, from the beginning they told me that it was a competition. They needed help at quarterback, so they were bringing in another guy, but by no means was I just the starter. The first day I showed up, we had a tough competition, 3-man competition in the spring, and I got to compete against 2 guys. One guy's older than me, one guy's the same age, guys that had been here, and I'm extremely appreciative of those guys because the way that they treated me during that competition of he's a new guy, and although we're competing for the same spot, really helping each other out. Those guys have been in this offense, so but yeah, we had a good competition. I mean, all 3 guys obviously very good players, but I was fortunate to win it. And then but yeah, those guys helped me a bunch. Just and I mean, it's the double-edged sword of, yeah, we're all competing for a job, but at the end of the day, we're all on the same team and we're all here to win together. So I think between the 3 of us, we all did a very good job of competing at a really high level, but also being really good teammates to each other. So
Yeah, that says a lot about like your team, because obviously competing at a high level is going to help you because you're going to push each other. But then if you gonna help each other out as teammates too, it just really shows what your team is made out of, and that's
yeah.
important. Understanding you're all shooting for the same end goal as a team, and you all want to win as a team. So you gotta kind of help each other out in any way you can.
Right.
So your first game of the year, you guys had a pretty good battle against ranked FCS Sacramento State, one of the better, teams in FCS, a really good squad. You got your first TD on the ground and in the air. So, obviously you guys lost the game, which is tough, but against an opponent like that, it's still, kind of had to give you some confidence to go out there and to get some TDs, in your first experience.
Yeah, it was big. The first half, we kind of sputtered on offense. Just some different things, some missed assignments, some threw an interception in the first half. Just it's just some kind of first game stuff, that you go through. I think every team goes through. And then the second half, I think we really settled down and we did some really good stuff. And like you said, I mean, that's a really, really good team, Sacramento State. They're going to the playoffs and winning their conference every year. And ultimately, that's our goal. I mean, that's where we want to get to. That's how Nicholls was back in 2018, 2019, 2017, 3 years in a row, going to the playoffs and conference champs. So they showed us kind of what that looks like, and in the second half, I think we played really well. I think we outscored them in the second half, but I mean, we were down at halftime. So ultimately you lose the game, but yeah, I mean, that's a really, really good team. They came down here and they beat us, so we have the one thing about us is we're super young. We have a bunch of new guys in place, some new offensive linemen, some new running backs, new receivers, and obviously new quarterbacks. So I think that the first time you really get to play together is always kind of a challenge just because you can't really replicate a game in practice. I mean, you try as best you can, but, nothing's really like the game. So I think that I think the first half we struggled. The second half we really settled down. We did some really good things, running the ball, throwing the ball. So we definitely, obviously, you play to win the game. That's not sitting here saying anything else. But we definitely had a better taste in our mouth after the second half that we played than we did at halftime, offensively at least. And then our defense is really good. They make my life tough in practice. I mean, we have some studs out there, and they're really, really good. We have no worries about them. They're going to play well. They've played well 2 weeks in a row. So we just got to do a better job putting points on the board, helping them out. So.
Yeah. Well, and your second week, I mean, that's a tough opponent. You had to add that game kind of just pinpoint when you saw the schedule, like, wow, we play TCU. Yeah, the 2022 FBS runner-ups, they were playing for the national championship last year at the FBS level. So, I mean, that's obviously a tough opponent for anyone to play. I mean, they're loaded with talent. So, I mean, that had to have been just kind of an exciting game to get to play against some of those guys who, I mean, they're the best in the country. They were playing for the national championship last year.
Yeah, it was cool. But just like week one, I mean, they're a really good team. And throughout the game, I mean, we had it close. But when you go to places like that, I mean, you play good teams. You just can't make little mistakes, So yeah. We had multiple penalties. We threw an interception. We had a touchdown get called back in the red zone. So it's just, I mean, it was 27-6 going into the fourth quarter. And the first play of the fourth quarter, they went for it on fourth down, and we stopped them. So we had the ball in the fourth, down 21 at TCU as an FCS team. I mean, we played it. We played very well.
Yeah,
it's just the little stuff. We got to piece together the little things. And I mean, like we talked about with week one, it was only the second time that group had ever played together. So by no means were we. I mean, it's just like week one. I mean, we're going to TCU to beat them. There was no.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're a great team, a great program. Sometimes people kind of get it twisted of like, oh, like if you guys score this week, like that's a win. Like no, like if that's your mindset, you shouldn't be with us. You shouldn't be in athletics at all, if we're being honest. But I mean, we were going there to win. We were fully confident that if we handled our business and executed, I mean, we were going to score and we were going to be in the game and we were going to have a chance to win it at the end. And that's our goal is if we execute and we get it to the fourth quarter with a chance to win the game, and that's all you can ask for. So ultimately, if you look at the film, they're a great team and they do a lot of really good stuff. But we hurt ourselves. Get down in the red zone, we jump off sides. We force a turnover and then we throw an interception. Like stuff like that. I mean, we hurt ourselves. And you just can't do that against really good teams. So, I mean, we played two really good teams, then we play another really good team coming up with Tulane. So, I mean, if you want to beat good teams, I mean, you can't beat yourself. So ultimately, we've beaten ourselves, I think, more so than we've gotten beat the first 2 weeks.
I think that's kind of an important point you brought up about like, if you don't go into the game thinking you could win and like your goal is to win, then what are you doing in the sport? Like, I mean,
right.
Anyone can win on every given weekend. I mean, upsets happen. Like that's why the upsets happen. I mean, nobody knows. You play a game because there's two teams and, they're going to play out and they're going to see who wins. Like you can't tell me which team is going to make mistakes. I mean, I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were like, there is absolutely no chance South Carolina beats Georgia this weekend. And I was just sitting there like, how can you say that? How can you give me 100% chance that
Right.
how do you know that Georgia's not going to fumble off a snap? And how do you know that they're not going to make mistakes? Or how do you know that South Carolina is not going to make some awesome plays? Guys are just going to make plays. And then they went to say, do you think that South Carolina is going into the game trying to win or just to try to make it look respectable? And then they said, because some coaches go into games knowing they can't win and they don't try to win. And I was like, I don't want to believe that. I don't really believe that, especially at college athletics. I don't know. I don't think, like you said, if you're not in it to win it, you shouldn't be there. So if there's a coach and that's their mentality going into a game, then they should be fired right away because you're at a program to win. The kids want to win. The players want to win. You're putting in the work to win. You're not putting in the work to, oh, we only lost by 15 or whatever. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
know.
it's crazy. I mean, it's just like it's like that first you get in and it's like, I mean, everybody knows it's like we go to TCU. I mean, we know who TCU is. And then once we run the first play, it's like, okay, this is football. Like,
right.
We've been doing this since we were we've been playing this game since we were in the second grade. It's just football. Like, yeah, they have nice, cool uniforms. They have a huge stadium. There's 1 million people, but it's like, we're playing football. Just do what you're coached to do. Do what we do in practice every single day, and we are going to be fine.
And it happens.
I mean, sometimes people let them get to them. The big stadium, the lights, the jerseys, like the name. People, I mean, sometimes people play against names. They don't play against teams. If we had to play, we were playing TCU. No, we're playing football. Like, we're playing against us. That's the message this week for Tulane is like, Tulane is a great team. They have great staff. They have great players. It's like, but who cares who we're playing? I mean, we have beaten ourselves the first 2 weeks offensively. So it doesn't matter who we're playing, whether it's the scout team in practice or we're playing TCU or Tulane, whoever it is. I mean, we need to get ourselves right because I mean, we all believe around here that we're a couple minor mistakes getting fixed away from being an explosive offense and being very hard to stop. And I mean, the more points we score, the better the team is, right? So our defense is really good. And the best thing about our defense is we feed off each other. So when they make a big play, it kind of brings everybody to life. When we score, they're flying around, making plays. So ultimately, I mean, it's about us. And it's been like that every place I've been. It doesn't matter who you're playing. As long as you execute and you take care of your business the way that you were coached to do, the way that everybody knows you can do, I mean, you're going to be totally fine. So
yeah. Nobody, can really say who's going to win a game. That's what you play. And like you said, it's just football. I mean, most people, okay, maybe I shouldn't say nobody. I'm sure there was somebody out there, but most people probably didn't pick Texas State to be Baylor week 1. There's an FCS squad beating an FBS squad that has a really good program. I mean, Old Dominion beating Virginia Tech a few years ago, Middle Tennessee beating Miami. It happens all the time. It's because it's football. I mean, like you said, anyone can win. And that's a great mindset. And, it's awesome that you guys have that mindset because that's the key to success. Eventually you're going to get there. And having young guys is tough with an early start schedule, but all this like tough competition is going to make you better players in the long run. If you guys are going to develop, you're going to fix your mistakes and you're going to figure it out. I mean, that's why you play a whole season. First couple of games, okay, but you guys can correct your stuff and you can go into this next game and then the next game and the next game and you keep building and that's all you can do.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
you guys have a tough schedule. Like overall, I mean, was that a draw at all, knowing that they play a tough schedule? Like you're going to be playing really good competition the whole year. Was that a draw for you when you came in here, kind of a perk to get to play really good comp?
Yeah, I think honestly, when we looked at it just during my recruiting, it was more of looking at the conference schedule. Yeah. I mean, Incarnate Word, Southeastern, McNeese, Houston Christian, like Lamar, all these schools are really, really good teams with really good programs. And I didn't even name all of them, but like obviously the non-conference is going to change every year, and this year and then the next 2 years. I mean, we're going to play different teams and all that. But looking at the conference, I mean, it's a really good conference, and teams. It's a really good conference that sends multiple teams to the playoff every year. So that was kind of more so in terms of looking at like who we were going to play than the non-conference stuff. I mean, the FCS is different. You go to there's a playoff. It's not just bowl games and 1 4-team playoff. So it's like we play 3 FBS teams or two FBS teams, it's like we're going there to beat them, but like we lost to TCU. It doesn't like we're not done, everything
Yeah.
that all of our goals that we set in January are all still very much in front of us, like Sacramento State, great FCS team, showed us where we want to be. Also showed us that we're not that far from there. Like the second half, we dominated that second half. Like we were a half away from being 1-0 and upsetting the number 7 team in the country. So I think that, I mean, you get to play these great teams in the non-conference, and then we play Tulane, and then we play Southeast Missouri, who's another great FCS program.
Yeah.
But I think more so, you play those games, and they're obviously big stepping stones into what you want to do. But I mean, our goal is to win the Southland. Win the Southland. You win the Southland, you get to go to the playoffs. When you go to the playoffs, I mean, the playoffs are the playoffs. No matter, it doesn't matter how you got there if you're there. Like you get an opportunity to play football, like we already talked about. So that's kind of our thing. Kind of always been the thing is just, we're playing all these great teams, but we want to win the conference, and that's been our goal since January. The day I showed up, even in November, December, talking on the phone with the coaches. I mean, the goal is to win the conference. So that's kind of what our focus has been. Just getting back to winning conference games and winning home conference games. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be tuning into some of your games. I'm pretty sure you guys got a lot of games on ESPN Plus, so I'll be tuning into the next few here
Appreciate
to see how it goes. We'll just wrap it up here with a couple of kind of random questions. Like, you guys got a team playlist that you have for pregame every game?
It kind of varies. I would say the staples of it are a lot of Young Boy, just as he's from Baton Rouge. It's about an hour away. A lot of Lil Wayne because he's from New Orleans. A lot of Drake too, just because he's the GOAT.
Right.
But I would say there's a lot of different stuff. A lot of guys are headphone guys, listen to whatever they want, and then we always have the big speaker rolling. So, but yeah, I would say those are probably like the staple of the playlist.
Is there one guy that always commands the aux, or do you guys pass it around?
Yeah, we have a defensive lineman or a linebacker, sorry. He's kind of like a hybrid, plays a little bit of both. Jacob Parker, he does a lot of the music. He's good. He's great about it though, because he'll mix in some different stuff. He'll play some R&B, he'll play some slower stuff. He even throws on some country every once in a while. But he's usually our music guy, so
yeah,
he's pretty good at it.
The DJ, the teen DJ.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
So, did you have a favorite player growing up in the NFL?
Growing up, yeah. So when I was younger, being from Ohio, I was a big Ohio State fan kind of growing up. And then once I got to high school, not really as much. But growing up, I was a huge Braxton Miller fan when he was the quarterback at Ohio State. Yeah. He was a stud, ran it through it. I mean, he was great. And then once I got to high school, I've always been a huge Cleveland Browns fan. And so when we drafted Baker Mayfield as the number 1 pick, I went nuts. So I've always been a huge Baker fan. Since he was at Oklahoma, I was a huge fan of him. And then now I'll always ride with Baker. I will die on the hill that no matter who is the quarterback of the Browns, he was the answer. He took us to the playoffs and we gave up on him too early. I will never admit anything else. So yeah, I would say Baker's my guy. Watching him in Carolina last year and with the Rams, and now he's with the Buccaneers. So he's definitely my guy. I like Baker a lot.
It's hard to be a Browns fan. It had to have been hard, growing up being a Browns fan. A lot of just hardship, a lot of
pain.
A lot of pain, yeah. But the team looked good this year so far. I mean,
yeah.
Game 1.
This is the first year the defense has looked really good, and then I think we got some pieces on offense that could be really, really good. So this is what happens every single year. Last year they beat the Jets week 1 on a game-winning field goal, and I was like, Cade York is the greatest kicker of all time, and then we cut him 2 weeks ago. So this is what happens with the Browns. I mean, we get way too high. Me and my buddies get super excited, and then I'm not going to wish anything bad because I'm a Browns optimist, but if it's anything like the past, something bad's probably going to happen, which it's a long season. So something bad's ultimately going to happen, but hopefully we can stop the bleeding and keep it going on in the right direction.
Yeah. You guys need a real life draft day situation like the movie where the Browns are in the toilet and they have this huge, like, draft, and you just got to
Yeah,
bring in
right.
Kevin Costner to be your next GM,
Yeah, we might need to. If this plan doesn't work out, we might need to. It might be like
Yeah.
our last resort.
Throw your
Yeah.
Hail Mary pass, just,
Yeah.
wing it. So if you could sit on a bench with any quarterback ever, like just guy, pick their brain about like, successful tips, or not even just like quarterback stuff, but like the mental side of sports, and like, or maybe not even a quarterback. I'll open up with any athlete ever. Want to sit on a bench and pick their
Yeah.
brain about like how to be successful. Who would you sit on a bench with?
Yeah. That's a good question. Um, Actually, so I've been very fortunate. Coming to Nicholls, the thing we do here is we host a Manning Passing Academy, where we have, I think this year there was like 1,600 high school kids that come,
Wow.
and there was 40 Division One, or not even Division One, 40 college quarterbacks that were here, and there were guys from all over. I mean, there were big name guys. Quinn Ewers was here, Arch Manning, guys like that, Jaden Daniels from LSU, got like big time names, and it's run by the Manning family, so Peyton, Eli, Cooper, Archie, they're all here. And one of the coolest parts about being a part of it was that we kind of got to do kind of what your question was, of kind of sit down with Peyton and Eli, and then they had some other people, some other NFL people in there, and just no cameras, no outsiders. Like, it was just kind of the raw details of ask whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so that was really cool. Just growing up, I mean, not being from down here, the Mannings are from here, so they're a huge part of kind of the society, the culture. But not being from down here, and just, you always watch them, and Peyton and Manning, they're two of the best to ever do it. So getting, like, watching them, and then kind of being here and getting to work with them and getting coached by them and getting to talk to them, obviously that was an incredible experience. One of the, definitely a highlight of being at Nicholls for sure, and honestly my entire football career. So, but I mean, other than that, I would say probably LeBron. I'm a huge LeBron guy, being from Cleveland. He's the greatest player of all time. He's the greatest athlete of all time as well. So I
Well,
mean,
you
he's
could
a
start
huge
some
part to
fights with
Cleveland.
that.
Oh yeah, I do all the time. I do all the time. But he's a huge part of Cleveland, and then just the success he's had, the long term success that he's had. Uh, I think it would be cool to just get to talk to him and just kind of find out how he's wired, and what's going on in his brain.
Yeah. Well, I won't sit here and argue with it, Bill Russell, but I'll just
Fair. It's a fair point. Yeah, yeah, that's a fair point.
well, yeah, I mean, you could really pick any of these goats, and the
Yeah,
greatest of all times in their sports, and they're all gonna have a piece of information to give, because
right.
they've all got that mental side down and like the athletic side down. But is Peyton and Eli, are like their personalities as awesome as like they show online? Like, they're just awesome guys.
Yeah, they're incredible. It's it's funny. It's super funny being around them, because it's still super like older brother, younger brother. Like they still mess with each other, and but yeah, they're incredible. And so is their other brother Cooper, and then their dad Archie. I mean, those guys are incredible. And just the coolest thing about them is they come in, they have these security teams, but when you're with them, I mean, it's just like they don't treat you like, oh, like I'm a Hall of Fame quarterback, like leave me alone. Like they're like, they come up to you, they ask you questions, like they knew where I was from, they knew what high school I went to, just stuff like
Wow.
that. I mean, they're really good people, outside of the game, which obviously draws people to them, but yeah, they're incredible. Super fortunate that I got to be a part of that, and if all goes to plan, or goes according to plan, I'll get to be a part of it again next summer. So got a lot of things to do between then and now, but definitely something that I think you look forward to, just as a football guy. I mean, being around the game of football like that, it's an incredible event.
Yeah, I love hearing that they're good people. I've always
Yeah,
liked the Mannings. They seem like awesome people, and it's always tough when you've got celebrities, athletes and stuff that you like, oh, I really like that. And then you find out that like, oh, they're a terrible person. Like somebody meets them and
Right.
like that person's a jerk. And then it's hard to like that athlete or that celebrity going forward.
Yeah.
So it's awesome
No
that
doubt.
you said they're truly, good guys.
Yeah, they're
That's
great.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Pat, thanks for coming on this episode. I think your story, it's a great story to share. I mean, kind of like you go through some adversity and your first stop wasn't the answer. And, it's important, I think, for guys, if anyone's listening, to know it's okay to take that leap of faith. And, you got to, the journey doesn't have to end right away. Like you could have given up if you wanted right away and not pursued anything else, but you kept persevering, and now you're living out your dream as a D1 quarterback. So I think your story is an awesome story of just kind of working hard and grinding, and your dreams will come true. And, that leap of faith, you got to take it sometimes. So Pat, thanks for coming on. Good luck tomorrow against Tulane and, the rest of your season.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.